Hello everyone, so we'll be covering the periodic for grade 4. So let's start. So here what do we have is that they're talking about which of the two following do releases chemicals cause? Sorry, which of the two following do the released chemicals cause? They react with oxygen to form rust? No. What is the hint about a rust is that it forms orange reddish color. They cause physical withering? Nope, because that won't produce a chemical. They cause chemical withering? Yes, you get a hint from here, chemicals. They react with carbon dioxide from rain? No, it's not in the surrounding air, so it won't be reacting with the rain. And the last one, they cause minerals in rocks to dissolve? Yep, it's this one. So it will be causing this one. Again, if there is anyone who needs private or sessions, please do reach out to me on the email. Second is that if there are any reviews, any kind of reviews you'd like to tell me, please do comment down below and any questions as well. So here, first of all, with this question, read what's written in the box, the observations. A group of travelers camping on edges of a desert made some observations that are mentioned in the table below. Observations. The desert is extremely hot during the day and extremely cold during the night. Keep that in mind. I think that's ringing what? Temperature. So temperature, right? Change of temperature. Then the rocks in the desert are abraded, smoothened, and have cracks in them. Okay, so it means that there's some sand, there's some wind, right? So sand and wind, that is like a sandpaper. It's smoothing it out. And many sandstorm occur, again, sand, right? So we can also talk about sand here. So there's a lot of wind. So with the wind, the sand comes and causes a lot of smoothing of them. So the answer is going to be wind and temperature change, right? Keep that in mind. Why did I say temperature? Because as you have read in the ebook, is that whenever you have the rocks, they expand during the day and then they contract during the night, which causes them to weaken and form cracks inside them. So physical and chemical withering breaks rocks into smaller fragments that involve in formation of soil and sedimentary rocks. What are some forms of these fragments? So what actually becomes these fragments? So with the gravel, the pebbles, not plastic, clay, and sand. Because remember, they're coming from rocks. So sand, not plastic. Next one. In a desert, it is very hot during the day and very cold at night. Again, temperature change. During the day, the heat leads to, what is the heat leads to? Expansion, because they become big. The rocks become big. Sorry. So the rocks are this, they're small and then they're expanding, right? At night, the low temperatures lead to contraction. With time, dash form within the rocks. So what forms within the rocks? Cracks. So cracks slowly start to form between them. Because remember, it's a solid. It's not as like it's not fluid for it to just expand and then contract again. Something will happen if it keeps happening over and over again. And then after that, what happens to them? They break apart. And then this is an example of, what is this an example of? Physical withering, right? And caused by, what is it caused by? Temperature. So this is physical. Next one. Now, what is the process described above that changed the rock's form? Like, what did we study? What is this all section about? It's about withering. So the fragments of rocks are becoming smaller due to air or sand or water. And Cappadocia, if I'm pronouncing that correct, some rocks appear to be red. This is due to interaction between atmospheric gas. Right, underline these words so you can see them more clearly. I mean, like keep them in your mind highlighted because they will be computers. So mineral iron found in the rocks, which in moist conditions, so there's water as well. So there is iron, there's atmospheric gas, and there's water as well, form rust. What is this gas? So we have studied this gas is oxygen. Okay. And the whole in the whole ebook section, there's only one gas that they mentioned is oxygen gas. So keep that in mind, just a hint for you for tomorrow's exam. Weathering may take many years to break large rocks into fragments. Two types of weathering exist, physical and chemical. Underline the agents that cause both physical and chemical weathering. So that will be our, what do you think that is? Water, right? And there's another one, organisms. So remember, the organisms are what? Our mosses, the green plants that form on the rocks, and water. So water does two things. We will study ahead. You can see it in the quiz. Explain it. I'll be explaining it. Which process is represented above? Now remember, in this, water may freeze. So the water is freezing. It's becoming like taking up more space. And then it melts again. And this happens over and over again. And where is this water exactly? In the cracks of the rocks. Right? So it's just like pushing apart the rock as it's expanding and it's melting and it's freezing again. So what will this be? This is your physical weathering. And what factor most probably caused this process? Ice. We've also seen in the question, it says ice. So here what it is, that one, your pollution increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. Yes. Then what happens? Acid rain reacts with the mineral. Okay. Then what happens is that the excess of carbon dioxide in atmosphere mixes with the water rain, right? Remember that whenever there's carbon dioxide in the environment, it's going to react with your rain. So second one. Then what happens is that rain becomes acidic. Yes, when it's reacting with carbon dioxide, something is bound to happen. So what happens? The rain becomes acidic. Next, limestone withers chemically, forming a new type of rock. So it's breaking apart, like the limestone is losing minerals and forms a new type of rock. What is that? That's our fourth step. And acid rain reacts with minerals in the limestone. Eventually, the acid rain is going to react with the limestone. That is our fifth. Sorry. Okay, not this one. This one will be 4, and this one will be 5. The limestone withers chemically, forming a new type of rock. So at the end, it will form a new rock. After the acid rain reacts with the mineral in the limestone. Let's go to the next one. What is here? Weathering is a process that changes the earth slowly. It takes time for it. It'll take a while, like 50 years, like that. That's how long it'll take. Withering agents most likely to form cracks in desert rocks is change in. What is that change in? Temperature. Remember that when we have desert in mind, automatically our brain goes to the heat and the cold of the night. So the interaction of water with minerals that make up rock causes. So whenever there's water and minerals that are they're interacting with each other that make up the rocks causes what withering? That will be the chemical. Remember, this happens in the limestone. You can see it in the ebook as well as you're reading through. So this one, 13, when rain mixes with harmful chemicals, rain is formed. So what is that? What happens to the rain? What kind of rain is formed? Acid. Acid rain is formed. Remember, we just studied about carbon dioxide. The next one, dash forms when oxygen interacts with iron in rocks, causes chemical withering. Now keeps in mind, we only studied the gas oxygen. It's interacting with the iron and we're in rock. Causes chemical weathering. So what's forming? Rust. It's the same thing that forms also in bicycles when there's oxygen, water, so that orangish material. You'll see the picture in the book as well. Now, 15th, sequence the events that occur when freezing water breaks a rock into smaller pieces. So what happens? First of all, at the very first, your water is going to fill in the rocks, right? The water, this is the rock, and then there's going to be water that will be filling in the cracks, right? So the water is going to enter the cracks. Maybe there's a crack in here, it's going to be entering that. Then what happens is that water freezes and expands. Remember, it's freezing, it's a colder area, so it freezes and expands, right? So it's pushing the cracks apart. The cracks finally, then what happens is that the freeze thaw cycle repeats, that goes on and on and on. It's freezing and it's melting, it's freezing and it's melting. This is the third one. And then finally, the rock breaks apart. That's the end. Remember, this is what the withering is completed. Now, the next one, keep the processes in mind and memorize them in the correct order. So whenever you go in the exam, you will see them automatically, what is happening first and what's next. So I always recommend this to my students that I tutor. Again, if you would like to review anything by any of the classes, do repeat this video again. And if you have any comments about the way I teach, do comment down below. Okay, so wind carries small particles, which will that be? 1. So wind is carrying the small particles. Next, what happens? Particles abrade the surface of rocks. So it's like shaping it, So second one, the shape of rock changes. Yes, when you're shaping something, when you're, hitting it with something, it's going to change the shape. This one, in river streams, rocks carried by flowing water hit against one another against the stream bed. So the rocks, they're being carried by flowing water, they're hitting against each other and also the stream bed. Eventually, the rocks are worn away until they're smooth. And select the rocks, so the rocks that actually reach our shore, they're very smooth. Why? Because they're hitting against each other and the stream bed. Select the rock that was carried the longest distance by flowing water into the river. Assume that all rocks have the same size initially. Now you will see that this one, why will your brain automatically choose this one? Because it has, it has been the longest time it has been in the water and it's being hit by other rocks. And it's withering into this very tiny small rock. This one, Carla is performing an experiment. She placed one piece of steel wool. Steel contains a high percentage of iron. Okay, that gives an idea. Iron on a dry plate. A. Another piece of steel wool on a wet sponge. She made sure to keep the sponge wet for a few days. Okay, so she placed one piece on a steel wool. Remember, steel contains high percentage of iron. The other one is placed on the wet for a few days, the wet sponge. So what is going to happen? Sorry. Which type of rock goes through the same changes as steel wool when it's contacted with the humid air? We know what is this? This is your rocks with iron, right? So rocks with iron, rocks with iron, because they're saying the same thing, interacting with iron and water. Sorry, iron and humid air. Humid air has water inside. What will happen to the piece of steel wool on the wet spot after a few days? What do you think is going to happen? It's going to change color. Next question. Now, just keep in mind, they're repeating a lot of times. What are chemical weathering and physical, and which contains both of them? So please memorize them, so it will become easy for you in the exam. The first one, what is wind? Wind comes under physical, only physical. Oxygen comes into chemical. Carbon dioxide, again, it will be chemical because again, it's a gas, right? So keep that in mind. So oxygen and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide reacts with the rain to form acidic rain. Also, this is another gas that's mentioned in the section. And oxygen that reacts with the mountains that rust or rust, makes that orangish color. Plants, water plants, they're both physical and chemical. The Moses plant and the plants that actually grow in the rock, so they crack. So burrowing animals, that also both. Sorry, this will be physical only, the burrowing animals, because they need to burrow into the soil and the soil is going to break apart. Physical, water, again, both. Remember, water in the limestone and water with the limestone, water as ice, it's cracking inside the stone. Breaks rocks down. So breaks rocks down, what is that going to be? Both, right? Both of them, they break rocks down. Causes some change to the rock color. So what is that going to be? That is our only chemical. Forms new type of rocks. What is that going to be? New type of, like they have left the old ones, the limestone, it became a new rock. What was that? Where was it mentioned? Only in the chemical. The next one, a slow process for both of them. They're both slow. Does not change the rock type, physical, and may occur when waves crash on rock shores. Again, remember, it's physical only. So physical. The next one, okay, please give it a minute. A slow process by which Earth's surface wears away and changes appearance is known as, we have learned this previously as well, as withering. This is like the most definition that will be coming up, and keep that in mind. During this process, rocks, soil, minerals break down due to contact with air and, so what is this air and? What do you think that will be? Air and water. Good job. The process by which rocks are broken down to smaller pieces without change to their makeup composition is known as physical. So there is nothing changing in their makeup composition, their minerals, how they're, the color of it. The process by which minerals in the rock change is known as when minerals are changing. So what is that? Chemical. This is chemical. So the composition is changing. 22. A sandstorm. What is an example of physical weathering? A rock changing color, no, that's chemical. A river drying up, no. That's not, it doesn't come under withering. A sandstorm abrading rocks, yes, because that's, the sand hitting the rocks over and over again, which shapes them. Water dissolves, that's both. What is an example of chemical withering? Water dissolving rocks. Let's check. What is that? Yes, water dissolving rocks. Why not the other ones? River water carving small rocks, no. Ice expansion inside the rock, no. These are all, the rest of them are all physical. Right, so it's only water dissolving rocks that's changing the composition of mineral. What is the agent of physical weathering? So let's check. What is that? That is our, 1 minute, wind. So what is the agent of physical weathering? Wind. Rest of them, again, they're all chemical. Now, atmospheric gases. Now, what is an atmospheric gases? That's only chemical weathering. Remember, we said about oxygen and carbon dioxide. Then temperature is in only physical, the expansion and the contraction of rocks, which causing cracks. Wind is only physical. And water is both. Let's go to the next one. Okay, what could a red color in rocks show? They are rich in iron. Because remember, when they're rich in iron and they interact with the water, the humid air, and oxygen, they form rust on them. Let's go to the next one. We're nearly done. And okay, burrowing animals, what are those? Those are physical weathering only. Remember, sand. They actually break through the sand, or they burrow through the sand, which makes them, the wind will take them away. So that. And roots of trees, what are those? Those are chemical or physical. That's physical. And because the roots of the tree, they'll come into the rock and they'll just crack. So they're not changing the composition of it. And moss plants, that's going to be chemical, right? So let's go to the next one. The last question of this one. So rocks crack from expanding and contracting. What is that? Temperature. Sand particles abrade rock surfaces. That's what? Wind, right? Because the sand particles, how are they hitting the rocks? By they're being pushed or they're being pulled towards the rock with the wind. Rocks at the beach break away. So what is that? Waves. And rocks carried by water hit against one another and become smoother. Sorry, 1 minute. Hit against, and that is river water. Okay, so rocks are carried by water, hit against one another, that's river water. Okay, thank you for your time. Again, if you want any sessions, please comment down below or reach out to me on the email. I'll be putting it on the screen. And if you have any comments on the way I teach, please do tell me so I can improve. And take care of yourself. Have a good luck for your exam. Have a great